You're retro trekking with the Caramel Apples podcast, the apple snack that brings you a retro vibe, both crunchy and sweet, with your hosts Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee.
What time is it? It's apple snack time. Coming up. But what's crazy is that in today's world, ripe with anger, insecurity, jealousy, competition, some folks may have made bullying others a fruitless pastime. And sadly, some of these said bullies never grow out of it and become adult bullies one can easily run into in the workplace.
Oh, that's tragic, right?
Yeah. Let's caramel dive in.
Excellent.
Good grief. Oh, how you doing this week, Coop?
I'm doing pretty well. I have to say I'm excited. I'm hoping snow's going to start flying here pretty soon, but I'm doing okay.
You and I, we don't share the same sentiment, so.
I know. Come on now.
Well, I got my wish today. It's like 53 degrees out there in this late in the year, so I'm happy.
But I know you're not so happy because you're a little under the weather, and I'm sorry about that.
That's right. It's stinking cold, whatever.
Yeah, so it's not like you can even really enjoy it, right? It's like it's decent out, but you really shouldn't be outside.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a couple more days and then I'll bust loose. Look out, world.
We've been warned.
Well, this week we've got an interesting subject to talk about, and it is readily found in a lot of examples of retro pop culture.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'd be quite the understatement to say that in the 70s and 80s, teen bullying or school bullies was a unique creature.
Yeah, because like when confronting the honest and raw topic that has roots, that definitely reaches back when we think of the common retro school themed scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
Bullying usually pops up in the mind. And there's nothing quite like thinking back on the anxiety-ridden occurrences we recognize all too well that of school bullies and bullying.
Truly. School bullies was such a common trope, often baked within the 70s and 80s movies and TV shows.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This occurrence pretty much was as old as time. And school bullies and bullying is one of the saddest and cruelest phenomena that often goes on in any given school or classroom setting.
Oh, so true. Being bullied can make one's life miserable with decades-long studies and research, kind of back up these raw claims. But more than even the best of society have uncomfortable memories or flashbacks of school bullying.
I think you're right. I don't think this is just like what's portrayed in retro pop culture. Like it's always like this small nerdy group, or we'll get to it, but there's something about them, the target, that makes them stand out in a bully's mind.
Yeah, kind of cliche, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And we'll get to some examples here momentarily, but bullies smell fear and they feed off of it.
Mm-hmm.
We could think of many retro pop culture references that bake this unfortunate occurrence into TV and film, as we mentioned. And again, we'll get right into some key examples of this. It's just too many almost, that we can even swamp the archivers with examples.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that in today's world, ripe with anger, insecurity, jealousy, competition, some folks may have made bullying others a fruitless pastime. And sadly, some of these said bullies never grow out of it and become adult bullies one can easily run into in the workplace.
Oh, that's tragic, right?
Yeah.
So is a bully exactly? I mean, I think that would be a very good question to ask, and kind of, for our formulation of this topic, we should
Oh,
kind of know
yeah.
what we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, a bully is someone who feigns power and status, real or imagined, who exhibits mean spirited, harmful behavior toward an unsuspecting innocent target.
Mm-hmm.
And these bullies constantly harass, irritate, embarrass, or even injure a target repeatedly just for the heck of it.
It's awful. These people are terrible.
Yeah. Cuz it's like that's they're putting thought into it. That's it's one thing if you kind of, accidentally hurt somebody's feelings, or maybe you're teasing them and they kind of get offended, or, and it was completely not something on purpose. We're talking about someone who's actively trying to cause pain.
So, yeah, we're talking about school bullies and bullying. Can you think off the top of your head, was there any instances that you can remember in school that might have been uncomfortable in this regard?
I can remember, fortunately, I never experienced bullying. And I don't think it was as commonplace as maybe it is today.
Mm.
I don't know if you feel the same way. But I can certainly remember, there was a couple people that I remember seeing that they were teased more excessively than other people.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
One was definitely weight,
Mm.
and the other one was kind of like the cleanliness factor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so they would be kind of singled out or commented on behind their backs and things like that. So, I mean, fortunately, never experienced it and never took part in it.
Yeah. Right.
So,
You're right. I remember like when we were in school, grade school or middle school, like they would go around, the school nurse would go around and check for head lice.
yes, I do remember that.
And that was a thing in the 80s. I mean, like it
Yes.
was just what it was. And everybody would get checked. But then I remember there were some people that had to take the walk of shame
Oh,
because it was discovered that they were suffering from that.
oh,
And that didn't help when they came back. It was unfortunate. They were trying to help them, but in a way they were very discreet about it.
yeah. They're like, oh, quarantine. They're putting a bag over their head and shuttling her out the door.
Yeah. And then there
You
was
know?
already the running joke of cooties. So
Ah,
you get
yes.
these little ungrateful brats that felt like they wanted to throw that kind of power over these ones. It was terrible.
Ah,
And actually, one other time, it wasn't a direct attempt at bullying, but I would put it there. I was in 7th grade, and
okay.
I didn't know this girl. There was this girl. I mean, she would just go around doing this to a whole bunch of undergrad, not graduates, under.
Underclassmen?
Yes, there you go. Thank you. The cold's getting to my brain, obviously. Um, yeah, and I mean, she was like 8th grade.
Okay.
I hated junior high, but anyway, I was in 7th grade, and she would just go around picking on underclassmen.
Oh.
And she did this like 3 or 4 times, me and my friend. She would come up and just scream in my ear.
What?
Just come up and randomly scream and yell in my ear, like just to see what I would do. And I was just like, what's wrong with this girl?
Wow.
She only did it 3 or 4 times, and I seen her do it to other people, but she did do it to me.
Hmm.
And I was like, this chick is nuts, like she
Yeah.
just.
Step into that door and then we have a straight jacket for you.
Yeah. And I think she was a child of privilege. I mean, she always had
Mm.
like the cool clothes, like Guess jeans and, nice things. So, like, she just was a punk.
Yes. Yes.
But, was everything all smiles and roses as it cracked up to be? Why are you going around messing with folks? That's some insecurity right there.
So you would definitely put that in a form of bullying.
I think she was going around messing
Yeah.
with folks. Yeah. Like, she needed
Yeah.
to stop.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because like you said, she's picking on people who were younger than her for what point and purpose? That's
Right.
just mean. Why would you do that? And she
Yeah.
was
And it's
doing it.
dumb. Yeah. And stupid.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, You look like you need a padded room. Like seriously, that was just does not compute. But bullies can and do choose different avenues to unleash their weirdness. I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
Um, they got different forms of punishment and aggression on a target. They'll inflict this physically sometimes, like they'll go and hit people,
Mm,
scream in their ear.
yes. Uh-huh.
um, I don't know. They can push or just do anything that's untoward. But then a lot of times bullies will take that subtle covert route,
Mhm.
and then they'll do something very super insidious and covert, like relational aggression. Like they'll bounce embarrassing rude remarks about a person. We just talked about that. Like talking about people's weight or their status in society or family. Like, oh, they don't have money,
Right.
or they don't have money so they don't shower. Just dumb stuff.
Right. Mhm.
So that's embarrassing and rude remarks like that. Spreading ugly rumors that may or may not be true.
Yeah.
Or just maybe just keeping somebody on the outside of a friend group or a common group. That's a big one in school.
So, it goes without saying that bullying is unwarranted and never ever okay.
Yeah.
Like it just and obviously when you grow up you figure this kind of thing out, but as kids their brains are still developing, so poor judgment is in there. There is a little bit of that, but bullying is just another level.
It is,
Um
and it's
yeah.
usually over things that people cannot help, like like
Yes.
maybe they have a disability.
Right.
Um, could be like religious differences, because I mean, this is a melting pot country. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different traditions around.
Right. Right. And you know if you come to a place to where maybe you have a lot of self-hate and then you want to turn that outward and put that on other people,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you need to be getting help,
Mm-hmm.
because you're wanting people to feel pain, because usually bullies have pain of their own.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So it's just a sad cycle that unfortunately takes place. But when one decides to take on and dole out this cruel type of harassment, the suffering can become long term,
Mm-hmm.
relentless, causing a boatload of other issues that may show up down the line. I think goes without saying, like anxiety, depression, mental distresses, and or like self-harming behavior.
Yeah, and that's a common thing you hear about now, like especially with this younger generation.
Yeah.
The self harming. I've heard more than a few examples of that happening.
And we're talking about how usually it'll show up later on in life, how somebody, this is what they dealt with, and later on this is how they kind of reacted, and they just carry it with them. I know there's a very popular movie out that's pretty much the premise. This very well-known actor at the time, in the movie he was picked on relentlessly, like had a really shameful, embarrassing moment, and it all comes full circle when he goes to a class reunion after that. He wanted to show that he was different, that he was not that person anymore.
Mm.
So it's like you can go your whole life just wanting to come back to these people and be like, well, I'm not that. You should have moved on. Other things have happened. Why is that so concerning? But it sticks in there like a tack.
Yeah. So will you be sharing what movie that is with our when we actually talk about our shows and movies?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool, good, because my the suspense is killing me.
Oh well, yes.
Because I already have some in mind, so I'm like, I don't know if I think of that one or not. I want to know. Don't hold out on me, Kim.
I will totally hook you up.
Yes, but what we're talking about though, like bullying is so bad. That really has been kind of a go-to in a lot of coming of age movies or shows. And it plays out in pop culture, and we sit there and we'll empathize and we'll go, "Oh, that's so terrible," or whatever. You may think of things, times that, you've witnessed it yourself or may have felt it. But it's funny, it's interesting how things really do kind of play out in a colorful way in pop culture. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, there's even examples that's happened that were so bad in movie or something that you're like, you watch it and you don't think you can watch it. You don't want to watch it and put it in. You're like, oh, let's get past that scene. I don't want to see that.
Yes, because it definitely brings up a very real reaction, a very visceral reaction to it. Yes.
Yeah, and these pumpkin
Hmm.
heads, they'll do this in front of other people, which makes it all the worse.
All the worst.
Yeah, is that even English? I don't know. I just my
It
brain is
is
not.
today.
We'll go with it. Yeah, they make the situation ugly. But okay, so now we've come to the part of our conversation where we'll mention the actual examples in movies and in TV where we can recall some unfortunate examples of this bullying or school bullies. Um, I don't know. I think that this is so timely because this was a thing back when we were coming up. But like you mentioned, Coop, like we don't have kids now, we're child free. But
Yeah.
we've heard a tale of woe time or two, things on social media. People are getting bullied in social media. Like it's terrible now for these kids, for these young people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start ticking off a couple that we remember. Let's go to, let's see, I'm thinking of a couple off the top of my head. Who
Okay.
do you want me to go first? Or you got anybody in mind you want to share?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
Um, I'm thinking of James Spader
Oh,
in a couple of movies. Yeah, he's nuts. Okay, I'm getting ready to record. Okay, shh, yes.
he gonna get you.
He was shushing me. He's doing it again. So bad.
Is he being a bully?
Yeah, yes. Okay, so yeah, James Spader in a couple of movies, he's doing his thing in regards to, being the quintessential bully. Uh, uh, he played Steph McKee in the movie Pretty in Pink, which was from 1986.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he's thinking he was better than everybody else, basically, due to the fact that he was, like the richest kid in school status.
Oh God.
He just does the classic portrayal.
He does.
Uh, has always kind of easily played the jerk in movies really well.
Yes. Was he acting?
Let's hope so. He's probably one of the nicest people you'd ever meet, right?
I bet you're right.
But he also in the movie Mannequin, he was older in that movie, but he again was playing the bully because he was targeting and harassing Jonathan Switcher.
Oh, I love Mannequin.
I know, that's so good.
Yeah, he was on his nerves in Mannequin.
Oh yes.
That's crazy. Good choice. Good choices.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was thinking of, oh, this is a really good go-to. The Karate Kid in 1984.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, Johnny Lawrence, he was after poor Daniel's son. Good grief. Daniel couldn't breathe right. Like he was after him.
Yeah. Um, that was
Pulling and implementing cruel stunts out of his mentor's Adult Ugly's playbook.
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he was emulating his sensei, Crease, who was
Hmm.
the real bully. Adult bullies.
Yep.
So he was see that shows that people they're taking this, they're watching this and they emulate this.
Yeah. It's a,
Mm-hmm.
it's a vicious cycle.
It is. So,
Um, and we also had Wyatt, brother from Weird Science in 1985, the older brother Chet.
Okay.
He was kind of the same way, just made them feel small. He'd pick on him and the friend.
Oh my God.
He just made them feel really stupid. And he would just kind of go out of his way to do it. And it's like, well, you're really the one that they should be making fun of, because you're not really that smart, but they're not doing that to you.
I still have to put Weird Science on my to-do list. I have not personally seen it.
Definitely do that.
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to do that.
I
Good
think you'd
choice,
enjoy
though.
it. Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Of course, Coop was watching it for an entirely different reason, but whatever. Yeah, she's put herself on blast on that one.
Now, I just have to make this clear, though. He was never one of my crushes. He was the quintessential 80s guy for me, but he was never a
Oh,
crush.
oh, I stand corrected. Okay, thank you
Oh,
for
did
that.
you think that? Ah,
I did. I
no,
really
no, no,
did.
no, no, no. He was never on my no.
I'm sorry. I did. I thought that. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I addressed it.
I'm glad you did too. Because to each his own.
Right? You're like, I didn't understand it, but I just went with
Right. Now here's the one that was another one that was in my head. We won't go long on it, but it was a sad one. Was Carrie.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She was I felt so sorry for her, and that portrayal reminded me a lot of what we saw back when we went to school.
Yeah.
So like, in her home life stunk. She come to school and it stunk.
Yeah.
That poor girl just could not catch a break. That's a sad one. That's a sad one. And so I don't want to really talk about it, but she broke my heart. Whatever.
Yeah. Um,
Um
who else you got there?
okay. I was like, all I gotta do is push that button.
Yes. um, also, let's see what else we have. Can't Buy Me Love.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the ones I was talking about where I was like, I love that movie. I love the It breaks my heart when they turn on him.
I know, I know. And like his whole friend group, like the whole movie was the premise of just being part of the other side of what they perceived to be the better side, right?
Yeah,
They
the
just,
cool kids, yeah.
yeah, they just wanted to be with the cool kids. And the whole movie was built on him just for a few weeks being with someone who was like the most popular girl in school.
The cheerleader, yep.
Yeah, and like even throughout that, like it wasn't enough to rub off on his friends because he left them, you
Hmm.
know. So then in a way, he kind of ended up bullying them, kind of inadvertently, because he just denied them, right?
Yeah,
And then he actually did go ahead and bully Kenny, his best friend Kenny.
that was awful, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, and then but like you said, towards the end when it all turned it upended on him, it's like he wasn't trying to be a mean person. He wasn't trying to do anything terrible. It just happened that way. But yeah, it's because of that bullying led to bad choices.
Yeah. I mean, he wanted something very basic and something he deserved.
Yeah,
Even paying for it, and it still ended up ugly and sad at the end. I mean, the movie did have a Hollywood ending, but what
yes,
we're talking about, the effects of the actual said bullying, was like, oh, it was kind of hard to watch.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So another quintessential example of bullying is in Back to the Future. Biff Tannen, that guy.
Yes, it's like when they do an audition, it just says bully. His face would be what you would picture.
Yes.
He's the only one that's standing in line.
Yeah, and it's funny because you'll have to check out. We actually did an episode on Back to the Future parts 1 and 2, where we talk a little more about this.
Yeah,
So go check that out. And actually, we did Karate Kid too. We hadn't mentioned that, but yes, so we talk in detail the bullying that happens within that episode. So check that out.
absolutely. Yes.
But a little side note on Back to the Future, real quick. I guess the actor that played Biff.
Hmm.
And this is a little golden nugget of something.
Fun fact.
Yes, there you go. Um, it was not always Michael J. Fox. They had another actor at first as Marty McFly, but that actor did not get along with Biff, that actor.
Ah, interesting.
And it was because that first actor was a diva
Oh,
and thought more of himself then. So he was kind of looking down and mistreating some of the other actors and stuff, kind of a bully in real life.
okay.
And he was
Got it.
excused. Yes.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. And now we have what we have. Thank God we have the Back to the Future we all know and love.
Yes, this is the gym, right? It's like, this is quite an 80s flick it'll just make you want to go back to that time. It will. So
Yes.
awesome.
So another quick reference. We did not see this movie. Neither Cooper or I saw this movie, but we've heard about it. Heather's in 1989. I guess that was what the theme was.
Mm,
But we neither one of us saw that. So, if you archivers know anything about it, hit us up. Let us know what you thought about it or whatever.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
one we actually will look. Keep your antenna up. We are going to do a show on The Outsiders, 1983.
Yay.
Yeah, that one was the theme was too young people doing young people things.
Yep.
So tune in for that one. That one's a sad movie. Oh my god.
Mm.
Oh, super sad. But we had talked about well before we get to there, we'll talk about adult bullies, but yeah, I guess this will go with that. Quint from Jaws.
Oh my goodness.
God, he was terrible.
Yeah, you can't say Quint without laughing. He was
No,
just another level.
yeah. And we go into detail on that also here in the Retro Orchard to check that out.
Yeah, you just need to just keep coming back and checking out our shows.
That's right. That's what we're plugging for. Come on now. Make it happen.
Yes.
But then we have a good cool school show, theme show, and that's not show, but movie. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh my God. Yes.
The bully was the principal. Yeah, that school principal, he wanted Ferris's head on a platter.
Ferris was ornery though, so totally get it. But
He asked for it, didn't he?
he did.
He was like, okay, who can I screw around with now?
Oh.
My parents, check. My sister, check. My friends, check.
Yes.
Yeah, he was ornery. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, I think did you mention when we were talking about this when we were going over our notes? Didn't you mention Saved by the Bell Screech?
Yes. It's been so long since I've seen an episode, but I was thinking it got to where he kind of knew that he was going to be shoved into a locker.
Oh,
So I think he would just kind of go ahead and get in the locker himself so that I'm sure it was a little painful them putting him in there, but
oh my goodness. Poor Screech.
yes. Oh, yeah, and I think Zach and Slater would kind of both take turns in, bullying him. But I think mainly it was Slater.
Oh,
Because I
really?
think he was
Okay.
kind of friends with Zach.
Oh, okay. Okay. So he was that go between. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're about to tie up our discussion. So I got one more to mention that it's not really in our decade parameters, but it was huge on the pop culture scene. Got a lot of notice. And that was the Lindsay Lohan film in 2000, I believe, Mean Girls.
Have you ever seen it?
I have.
It's pretty good,
It
actually.
is a good movie.
And it's one of those ones that I would have been like, no, I don't want to see it. And then when I saw it, I was like, that's not too bad.
Me too. It was well done. It picked up on a lot of the points that we've been discussing this week.
Exactly. Yes, they nailed it. And it's nice for that parameter, that decade parameter, that they had such a movie that really did encapsulate what we're talking about. It
Yeah.
Bullying was on another level in that movie.
It really was. It made you, and I hope it people when they watched it, it really did. If they've got a heart and some compassion, do they empathize with these people? This really goes on.
Right. Right.
I mean, I've even seen things on social media and stuff where people, adults, will tell their story about how they're just slapped around mercilessly in the workplace.
Mm,
Yeah, I
wow.
mean, it's like these people never grew up and they went and took their toxicity out into the workplace. People are trying to make a living. People are trying to feed their families and keep a roof over their head.
Yeah, and like with school, it's a have to, but then you're like, well, I'll graduate and then be done with it. But with
Oh,
work, you're probably, if you get a decent job, you're probably going to spend the next 30, 40 years there maybe.
right.
You want to be dealing with that? Come
Yeah.
on.
So now we're going to get into the logistics before we tie off our discussion. We're going to get to the logistics of what to do about it
Mm.
potentially. So, we had a nice list there in pop culture. We know we always try to keep up with that end of it. And again, what's going on inside the mind of a bully? What are they suffering from?
Yeah.
So, I mean, their behavior is absolutely deplorable, but they just, they're unaware. They just do what they do. Um,
Yeah.
Deriving bizarre pleasure from harassing and irritating others. But I don't
Yeah.
know. What would you say about that, Coop?
I would just kind of say, just kind of muster up the courage to just confront this kind of early on, as early as it really gets started, kind of stand your ground, let them know that, this is not going to be something I'm going to tolerate.
I agree with that. Let them know early on. If somebody has the gumption,
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of people. That's why they pick certain people though, because they pick up on something about them where they keep themselves small. They're quiet.
Yes. And unfortunately, that does kind of lend to being a target. You're just wanting to live your life. But yeah, if you can, as soon as this starts to happen, let them know, look, I'm not about that life. So
That's right.
pick somebody else.
Put up your dukes. I'm just kidding. Um, if situations like this also, come to your attention, just if like an adult hears a child from, their child or somebody they know, a young one comes, and hey, this is happening. Don't blow them off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
If they're bringing something to your attention or you become aware of something, take it serious. That's a lot going on in this world with social media, school. Like it's different now. It's a little more rabid.
I think that's a very good word.
Yeah. We as responsible adults, if something comes to your attention, just please give them a hearing ear. Let them talk about it, let them vent. Don't patronize them. That's
Yeah.
suffering.
Yeah.
And no child, nobody, but no young one should have to endure this type of unfair abuse.
Speaking of adults, in our list of bullies, we remember from pop culture, we had even snuck in a couple of examples of where some adult bullying took place.
Oh, that's right. We did.
Because we mentioned Dame Spader in Mannequin, and also, the principal in Ferris Bueller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I find it interesting, and not in a good way, I might add, um, that many bosses are like psychopaths.
Hashtag facts.
Or is that sociopaths? Sociopaths. A lot of times it's encouraged for someone experiencing bullying or any kind of uncomfortable behavior, to take that to their HR department. But you know what? I feel HR in most companies are rarely there to really help out the victim. It almost seems like it can be making things worse and even potentially like on steroids.
Hashtag facts.
Okay, good. You agree. Okay.
I do because Coop and I worked in a situation for a few years where, like, we always mind our P's and Q's, but it was ripe for trouble,
Yeah.
and HR was a joke. Um, Like they hear these, it's like the principal's office, and they'd hear these people's complaints or concerns, and they give them something to chuckle about over lunch together. Like I'm sure that's
Yeah.
what they did.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so it's not really put in place, as you say, Coop, for refreshment or encouragement or for empathy. Like it's like you guys are just collecting stories to chuckle about or to fan the flames, perhaps. I don't know.
Unfortunate.
I think HR is worthless, to be honest with you. Whatever. More sociopaths.
Yeah.
But like even teachers, you go back to young people, like I remember there were some teachers in school that didn't care for me.
Ah.
I remember one exactly in fourth grade. She was not very nice. There was something wrong with her. Like she enjoyed being weird
Mm,
and mean.
okay.
Um, I think I had a little bit of a problem. I was a little bit of ADHD or something, so that might have contributed to it. I had a little trouble procrastinating, that kind of thing. But I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that didn't matter. They were like, "No, this isn't working." So there was a little tension there.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could tell the difference between tough love and, just being picked on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember her name and everything. I won't put her on blast, but hopefully she learned to be a grown up down the road. She already was an adult, but hopefully she learned something, a thing or two. But there are principals that target people, teachers, as
Hmm.
we said, or like
Yeah.
coaches and stuff. It's sick. Don't abuse kids.
Yeah.
Bullies beget bullies, and the need to look all tough and receive praise from their peers or whoever's looking on helps them to launch these attacks on unsuspecting weaker ones. That's not very nice, and it's sick.
It is. I'm glad we actually addressed this. Like you said, there's so many different avenues now, way more than when we were younger. It was pretty much school,
Yeah.
or maybe your neighborhood. But now your neighborhood could be across the world on social media. So yeah, there's so many different ways, and like we said, we're not discounting adults can also deal with this. Um, so it's been an interesting topic that we decided to talk about briefly this week,
Right.
and we're about to tie up this discussion. But before we do, we'd like to leave off with some potentially helpful information on what a sufferer from bullying might be able to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
While they're suffering this frustrating plight.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, if you're experiencing a bully, whether at school or work, hopefully seek out somebody you can talk to and trust. Vent. Don't bottle it up. Don't hold it in. Stand your ground. Try to have some courage about it. Let them know you know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there is some hotlines or crisis forums that people can go to and call anonymously, and they can text.
Oh, that's nice.
We'll
Mm-hmm.
put that in the show notes. So, check that out. We won't say it on air, but if you read about it, we'll put it in our show notes. So yeah, we'll put that information down below. Just check out the show notes, and hopefully it'll be some vital assistance if there's something that or you're going through something that you might be able to find a little bit of refreshment or whatever.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this earlier. You had mentioned something about like maybe journaling or kind of record when these things happen. Maybe what took place, maybe where it takes place. Maybe you could avoid those areas, or um, it'd be nice if you could just avoid the person altogether. But that's not always easy. But writing down can help you get some of that tension off of yourself. Putting it down on paper could, maybe make you feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be helpful. Yeah. So I mean, really, this is sad that we have to talk about something like this, but bullying and school bullies, that's been a tale as old as time.
yeah.
And people should never have to deal with a bully anywhere or anytime. That's just not, it shouldn't even be in there, but people do. And it's really charged up exponentially over the years.
Yeah. I forgot to tell you what the movie was. Um,
Oh,
that's okay. Okay. So the movie was Central Intelligence. So this has only been made a few years back. And it starred Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart. And, Dwayne Johnson was completely mercilessly tortured in school. And then he grew up and, he became this CIA agent or whatever, and then the story kind of follows him around as you know, he just wants to be better. But when it all boils down to later on, it's just been the problem that followed him his whole life. That
Mm,
just tormented him his entire life, how he was treated
yeah.
in school. So it's a kind of funny movie. Um,
Oh, okay. So they put a little comedic spin to it just to help lighten up the mood a little bit.
yes, yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Thank goodness.
It is funny, but yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely you'll go. We know exactly where you're going with this.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. I've never heard of this movie, so
Oh.
interesting. But hey, you got a Johnny Lawrence in your life. You got a Biff Tannen, some mean girls at work. Again, stand your ground. Just stay cool and collected and positive as you can. And don't let these people get to you because that's what they're looking for. They're trying to sniff out the weakness.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Orchard Archivers? Have you ever been bullied by toxic, insecure peers, teachers, parents in your lifetime? How about toxic, jealous coworkers? Hit us back and share your story. We'd love to hear what you have to share. You just may be able to help someone out big time who's currently suffering and going through this. It'll be a nice, noble thing to help your fellow human. So let's tie this up, Coop. This week we were talking about bullies and school bullies, and we had mentioned how they smell fear and feed off of it.
Yes.
So we're telling you, as the caramel apples, let them know that they need not waste their time on you, for you are a true warrior. Turn their ugly game back on them. Over and out.
And that's it for this week's Apple Snack. But as you know, there's always more where that came from. So stay tuned. Subscribe, rate, and spread the word, especially if the show entertains you. See you next time in the Retro Orchard, and thanks so much for listening.